Hello, head people. Good morning to you. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you may be on the face of our dear planet. My name is Tosin Kolaole, and I'm pleased to welcome you to Climate Action 101, where we amplify the ideas, solutions, and innovations that individuals, institutions, intergovernmental and non-governmental establishments are involved in resolving our climate change crisis. And I'm super excited to be with you today, and excited because of the importance of the conversation that we're going to be having today. And but before I introduce my guest, I want to appeal to you to please subscribe to this channel, like it, share it amongst friends. It's so important to what we do. We need to let many more people, see what's going on, learn more, so that together as a collective, we can continue to get involved in acts that reduces our carbon emission in the atmosphere, draw down carbons, and we can live in a more sustainable environment. And so today, joining me to consider what are the things that are needed for us to move not just from net zero or carbon neutrality to carbon negative. Some people say, "Oh, that seems like a tall order," but we have an expert in the room who will help to provide some, perspective on that. And the truth of the matter is that global warming represents many environmental damages, but as individuals, we pay a cost of climate change out of our pockets through losses, through displacement, through some of the traumas that accompany that. But the question is, what do we do in that situation? How do we, through our lifestyle, come up with initiative ideas on how to develop lifestyles that does not add to the problem, but in other words, help to reduce some of the problems we're having in our atmosphere, in our world. So today we have joining us Beth Craig. Welcome, Beth Craig. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Great. Good to have you here today. So can you just help provide some context? Why is a carbon negative lifestyle important? Why should we be concerned about that?
Okay, great question. Because keeping it as it is not good enough. People are trying to, you'll hear a lot of talk in government about going to 1.5 degrees Celsius, but we're not even there yet. And we're already experiencing incredible ecological destruction and economic setbacks, and it's just going to get worse. And so I think that we should actually drive our numbers down to pre-industrial levels and do everything that we can to achieve
that. Talking about driving it down, what does that look like to me as an individual?
Sure. Well, first off, despite what I'm about to say, it's an incredible life upgrade. So I'm just going to say the word that a lot of people are afraid of, which is donate money. So what that looks like for the individual is basically you have to do your utmost to drive down your own personal carbon footprint as much as you can. And it's a constant learning experience. I mean, no one is an expert at this, which is why we have the problems that we have today. So, you just do your best. There's tons of information online and far too much to share on this podcast. But once you start looking at how you can drive down your own carbon footprint, the bummer is that if you live in a developed country, I know in the United States, that just the infrastructure alone, if you spread it out over the population, is 8.5 tons per person. It's been shown that like a homeless person in the United States still has an 8.5 ton carbon footprint because of the infrastructure upon which we all rely. So even if you could zero out your footprint completely, you're still going to have that debt, if you will. So you have to donate to groups to help you drive down your carbon. Now, there's a word that's used that everyone hates, it's offsets, but when you invest your money in offsets, you are helping other people get their carbon footprint down further too. And the more that we invest in offsets, the more that we show the economic system through market indicators, through our consumer choices, that that's what we care about. Everyone thinks that, you know, marching is good and voting is good, and I totally agree, but we also have to spend our money like we believe in. And it's not really a burden. That's what was so surprising to me when I discovered how to live a carbon negative lifestyle. It feels fantastic to give money to preserve ecosystems, to grow new ecosystems, to help out people have better tech like cook stoves that are solar powered. It gives them time. 20% of people's time is spent on gathering wood, who have to heat their homes and cook their food that way. So when you give them better tech, you're improving their lives and you're also diminishing carbon emissions. So there's just so much great work to be done, and it feels so much better to preserve, say, an acre of forest rather than get a nice pair of slippers for Christmas. You know, it's just, I think it's a better way to live. It feels fabulous.
But is this not the concept you're proposing? Is it not sometimes we consider as an opportunity or an excuse to continue with business as usual? Because I can just feel like, oh, I'm donating to a cause outside there that's just taking care of the forest. I can continue my life as usual. You know, you get what I'm trying to say. So is that not an excuse?
You know, this is a big pushback amongst a lot of people who are concerned about this word offsets. And I wish that word just didn't have the horrible schema that it has, because it's really just investing in getting carbon either back to a solid form or preserving what sequestration technology the Earth has and keeping it around. And to your question about, you know, does it encourage people to get to just, you know, screw it, I'm going to get a Hummer and I'm going to go on my Learjet. But actually, no. There's new research out that shows that it doesn't have that effect on people. People are worried about that. But I think when you start to really, what I call, own it, you know, you go beyond buying and participating in this world as a consumer, and you start owning your life and owning the wake that you create in the world through our modern lifestyle, you get in touch with just how much your lifestyle is causing carbon and carbon dioxide, but, you know, carbon to be emitted into the atmosphere and bond with oxygen and do stuff, and also other greenhouse gases. And when you start to pay attention to your footprint, it's well documented that when you start to pay attention to what you're concentrating on, that you improve that situation. It's just a matter of focus, and that's common knowledge. So no, I've seen my carbon footprint go down incredibly since I started investing in sequestering carbon. My students have seen the same thing happen, and now studies are starting to show that that's actually not the truth, that once you start focusing on doing your part actually starts to change, because you start to get connected with what the Earth needs for you to exist at a certain level of lifestyle.
Thank you. Some people who are watching us now could be thinking, maybe a first timer, that it seems as if the conversation is around carbons, and I know that. Is carbon necessarily bad?
No, I mean, carbon is an element. I'm made of carbon, you know, we all are. This wood behind me is made of carbon. Carbon isn't bad. The issue is when you have carbon that's burned and then you have it airborne, it wants to attach to oxygen, and then you have carbon dioxide. And that's just one greenhouse gas. But you also have methane. There's, you know, that's a whole science topic right there. But no, carbon in itself is not bad. It's when it gets released and binds with oxygen and becomes a greenhouse gas and, you know, really it's not bad. It's just we have too much of it. I look at this like, you know, the Earth has been I look at it as like a breath cycle that the Earth takes, you know, for millions of years. She breathed in carbon You know, we had a bunch of critters walking around that are now what fossil fuel is made from, and they stacked on each other and got compressed and pushed under the earth for millions of years. And that's how fossil fuel was created. In a way, it was kind of like a long millions of years inhale of carbon material. And then we found it at around 1850 is the benchmark year when we started going nuts about fossil fuel. And we started digging it up and burning it at a much quicker rate than she had inhaled it. So we actually did a very broad, swift exhale of all this carbon material where she had, you know, the earth had taken it in for millions of years. And it's really just the extreme difference that we're coping with now. You know, we're looking at a difference from 1850. It's just not that long ago. And species are having a hard time adapting to the changes that are happening on the planet so swiftly. If we had, you know, released it maybe a little bit slower, we wouldn't have the issues that we're having today.
But permit me to act as the devil's advocate.
Oh, please, love this.
And because you just alluded to the fact that carbon came to be as a natural process, right? And so it's a part of the planet, it's part of the earth, and those are resources that we should take advantage of. Why should we be careful about taking more carbons from the ground if there are resources that we can use to develop and just have all the, you know, the best of life development and all that? I mean, why should we be taking less when we can actually take more?
So you're saying, like, why not use all the fossil fuel we can?
Yeah. If it's a natural resource and that it's just there by nature, I mean, it's a gift to humanity. Why should we be careful about taking more?
It's the greenhouse gas thing. It's that, you know, lots of things are natural and they're still toxic. I mean, you know, there's lots of mushrooms that are toxic and they're very natural. You can find them in forests. You know what I mean? Just because it exists on the earth doesn't mean we should breathe it or eat it. It just means that it's natural. But it's all about balance, you know? I mean, humans were burning fires long before we found coal and oil deposits. So, you know, it's the life cycle, it's the balance, you know. We've been exhaling, if you will. Humans have been causing all this carbon, well, let's just say greenhouse gases, to be exhaled through our burning and agricultural life, you know, livestock and all this. We've been causing this huge exhale of all these greenhouse gases swiftly. And the problem is that it's not in balance with what we can handle once it's released. But, you know, for thousands and thousands of years, humans were doing just fine. So burning and carbon isn't bad. It's just we need to bring it into balance. And that's the issue. We're just way out of whack for sustaining what we want to sustain on Earth, which is humans and other species.
Well, thank you for sharing that powerful comment. But then how do we relate this now to climate change and the impact that is generating around the planet?
What do you mean by that? I'm sorry.
No. So how do we relate the need to move towards carbon neutrality?
Okay.
What impact will it have on? Does it have any potential to stabilize our planet? And does it mean that when we go more carbon negative, and that we're going to have a place that is much better than this with milder climate conditions and negative impacts on the planet?
Well, we've got a bit of a long road ahead of us, because let's just say I waved a magic wand and all the carbon that has been released, or all the greenhouse gases that have been released, have all magically sequestered. We're back to 1850 levels. Just, you know, miracle, right? You still have, okay, so there's a few systems at play here. You know, we have oceans that have absorbed carbon. That's why we've got toxic acidity in the oceans that is so extreme now. It's melting crustacean shells. And you've also got huge die-off of oxygen makers in the oceans. So the ocean has been absorbing carbon dioxide to pull it out of the atmosphere and somewhat stabilize it. So the ocean would still have to off-gas what it's been holding, and that would still have to happen even if you put it all back in the ground from the air. The ocean still needs to keep moving through it. Plus the ocean is heated, you know, so there's going to have to be like this re-stabilization, I guess, you know, after you get everything back down. So we're in, and that's just if I wave a magic wand, but you know, I don't have one. And so we're going to be looking at decades to turn this whole thing around, even if we started to go carbon negative tomorrow.
Oh, I'm just kind of worried that based on your assessment that even if we stopped taking more carbons from the atmosphere, if we stopped the pollution right now, the effect are still going to be with us into the future.
Yeah, we're going to need some time for the Earth to redo what she's been going through. You know, it's kind of like if you have a break in your bones and you mend it and you do everything that you need, you still need to have the natural systems come in and heal that bone. And the same thing is going on with the Earth. We have to wait for the Earth to restabilize all that's just been going crazy. You know, it's going to take some time. Now, I am not a scientist on, you know, I am not a scientist. So and I don't know of anyone who's been looking at what I am an advocate for, which is a carbon negative lifestyle, and for the population at large to live like this and to start sending financial indicators into the marketplaces that this is where we want the economy to go, to start focusing on getting carbon back into solid form and preserving what sequestration systems we have already. So I don't have, you know, computer modeling to see how long it would take for the Earth to stabilize. If someone could wave a magic wand and have it all back into solid form today, or, you know, if we go along with what the Own It Economics plan is and have everything sequestered by 2050, how long after 2050 would it take for the Earth to stabilize? I mean, this is a new conversation that I want to start, because I don't know if I can go on just a little bit of a monologue here, but you know,
please go.
I have every faith that humanity, you and me, everyday people, could turn this whole thing around without government involvement or corporation involvement. I mean, all change happens from the bottom up. You can look at the labor movement, suffragist movement, abolition. I mean, it all started with everyday people saying, this isn't good enough. And you have, you know, those people in the past and us today, we have to take steps to show that we don't like it the way that it is, where it counts, which is money. And so when you start to invest in getting carbon back into solid form or preserving what is already in solid form and expanding that, you're going to be sending a clear market message. Now, you know, I've studied history a bit. If you look at World War II is kind of a beacon of hope for me, because in World War II, granted, the government did instill institutions like war bonds and things like that. I understand that. But the bottom line was, if you didn't have public buy-in, which FDR worked very hard on getting, you would not have had the success that we did have in World War II. I mean, people at Christmas time thought getting a war bond was an awesome gift to give and receive. I mean, that would be like you and I giving, you know, an acre of forest to someone and them going, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I mean, that's just not happening right now. And I would like to see people start to really understand what a beautiful gift that is. That if I'm preserving some kind of ecological system and giving you a piece of it for the holidays, that's amazing. Way better than slippers, way better than a sweater, you know, like that's good stuff. Like we're investing in the planet and it feels fantastic to do it. I mean, that's a whole other piece of this program that we haven't really touched on. And I would like to, if you want to, but anyway, okay. I mean, you know, I like conversation, so it's weird to just keep talking, but all right. So, the idea is, what people have not really understood for quite some time, and yet it's a part of our ancient wiring, is that giving is incredibly fulfilling. And I consider it like the fourth pillar of my personal health. I try to eat as well as I can, get great sleep, exercise, but I'll tell you, my life and my mood and my health didn't really sync up until I started making giving a huge part of my life. And I initially started giving, in 2016, 10% of my take home to take care of the wake that I felt my modern lifestyle had caused. And I was astounded in 2 months about how great I felt. I hadn't ever felt this level of giddiness ever. And so I started to research, is giving doing this? Because I didn't even suspect it. I just knew I was kind of on the hook for some carbon and other things, and I better start paying up, or I wasn't really living in integrity. And it turns out it's totally documented. There's tons of studies. I've got the reference section for my ebook that's going to be coming out. I'm just fixing some typos and reissuing it. But the reference section has a whole bunch of studies in it about how giving is so good for you. It releases dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. I call them the dose for short. So you get this like giver's high, which I think we've all experienced when we give something to a friend or a family or even a stranger. And then as people give over the course of their lives, there's been studies done where, same age group, same socioeconomic strata, same geographical location, that givers are healthier than non-givers. They get less heart attacks, less incidences of cancer. They're more fulfilled in their life. They handle stress better. They live longer for all those reasons. And this is the part that blew my mind. And honestly, I didn't discover this for like a few months after the first 2 months. You get richer, like money. And the reason why, there's 4 reasons.
Is that spiritual? Or how do you explain that? How do you explain that when you give, you get richer? Is it a spiritual law? Is it a law of life? What's the explanation behind that? But I feel like giving is like you have less. That means you have less. How can you have more when you give?
It's a weird thing. I know it sounds crazy. And honestly, if I hadn't gone through it personally, you wouldn't be seeing me here now. Because I've had to go through it for a while to get on my soapbox and say, hey, man, this is a way better way to live. And it is. So what happens is when you start giving in proportion to what your lifestyle, say, causes, right? Like, my phone has plastic pollution. I've got childhood miners in different parts of the world putting this, getting raw materials. I've got people in sweatshops putting it together. I mean, it's not everything that we buy usually has some nasty wake in it. I call them hidden costs. And they're not what you're going to see on the beautiful billboards. They're what you're going to see when you start digging in to how your stuff is made. We get little blips of this with news stories every once in a while. But when you start to give in proportion to what that is, and then also, live carbon negative as part of that, you start to really connect with what you're causing. And that calms everything down. I don't really experience cognitive dissonance anymore. I mean, I have a gas car. It's not time yet to give up my gas car. I've done the computations on the carbon footprint. I have a smart car. There's a big embedded carbon thing in electric vehicles, and I haven't really used my smart car as much as I can. So, I fill up with gas, and I donate to causes to put that back into solid form, but I'm still emitting it, right? But I'm not feeling the cognitive dissonance because I'm acting on it. And that's a huge thing. I'm not driving more because of it. I'm just taking care of the little bit that I do now drive. I also bicycle and walk. But what happens with getting richer is there's 4 reasons why you will get monetarily richer. Number 1 is, if you have better health, you're not going to have as high of medical expenses. So the health is already well established. And now you're going to have lower medical expenses. You're also going to have lower insurance because you'll just have better health. Also, people who give are perceived by their peer group as being more trustworthy. And so they're going to be up for promotions more. They're going to be given more responsibility at work, which usually goes with greater levels of pay. And then the other piece, which is just wild, is that giving is a way of being a provider. And being a provider is the part of the brain that understands how to earn money. So it's kind of like having a kid. You know, when you have a kid, all of a sudden you're figuring out ways to make money to support that child. And when you start giving to the world, you start to figure out, because it feels so good. It's like the best ever. When you start to feel that in your bones and wake up happy every day, you want more of that. So you're going to figure out ways to have more money to do that. And I actually ended up saving. I was giving away hundreds of dollars a month. And at the same time, I was spending nothing on passing pick-me-ups. There was no comfort food that I needed because I was feeling awesome. You know, I just didn't need to buy like a new dress because I was in a slump, because I was not in a slump ever. And I just found ways to be more frugal, drive down my footprint even more, which of course means fewer costs for me. I mean, having a lower carbon footprint lifestyle is less expensive. It's just the way it is. And so once I started to really, you know, tailor my life to what would really mattered, which was I like home cooked meals. So I invited people over for home cooked meals rather than go out to restaurants, because I wasn't too stressed to stay at home and cook, because I felt great because I was giving. And it just started to be this positive feedback loop in my life. And I made some other changes. And before you knew it, I was living paycheck to paycheck. And within a year, I got out of all my credit card debt and put, you know, 5 figures back in my checking account. So it was amazing. It just simplifies everything. It calms everything down. And it's just the most gratifying, fulfilling way to live ever when you start paying attention to how to live in balance. It's beautiful.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's indeed beautiful. And I wonder, I mean, I like to live on this note. I mean, it's more than beautiful, it's also therapeutic hearing that from you. And so how can people develop similar lifestyle as they try to move towards being carbon negative? How can you see it from the point of giving by getting less, or giving by producing less of carbons is the way to go?
Yeah, that's what, well, you know, definitely drive down your carbon footprint as much as you can. And it's not a sacrifice, because what you're doing is you're getting in touch with being more in balance with what you do and what the earth can do, right? So this is kind of it's like an exercise of respect for what the earth needs right now. And we are earthlings, and getting more connected to what needs to happen on the earth is incredibly grounding. And you know, it's facing your life from a place of genuineness and authenticity. So getting down your carbon footprint is phenomenal. As a practice, it's like a Buddhist meditation or something. It just feels really good. And then pay money and invest to take care of what you cannot take care of, no matter how much you walk everywhere, grow your own food. We still get water piped in. You know, we can still flick on a switch and we have electricity. I mean, all of these infrastructure systems take carbon. So you just need to, you know, there's tons of carbon calculators online. You figure out your carbon footprint and then double what it is and go negative. I recommend, if you want to really go hugely negative for a certain, I mean, I offset like 200 tons a year, you know, so it just feels great. I've committed to that for now, and I hope to up it.
Is there a website or where you can point our audience to where they can get to, like, learn how to calculate their carbon and footprints?
Sure.
Is there a website, a go-to place?
There's a few that are fabulous. I've got links on my website if people want to go there. There's one, though, at Berkeley. Berkeley has a really good calculator. I've used that in the classes that I've taught. But, basically, if you want to get into the weeds and figure out your carbon footprint, I 100% encourage it, because that actually helps you with some dopamine. When you have a task and you accomplish it, that's wonderful stuff. Becoming more self-aware and really getting curious about what you do, it's all fabulous for your brain health. But the average amount is 16 tons for an American, according to statistics. And then a lot of carbon calculators don't also include the 8.5 ton carbon footprint that we have just as part of our infrastructure. So roughly 25 tons per American is what, we have to invest in. And then the weird thing is that because we're in carbon debt as an individual, we're constantly taking more than we're giving. When we start to give back, we get a gift for giving back, because we start to feel better and get healthier and get more money over time. So it's kind of like this, you're getting a gift now to give back. And that's really a pretty, no risk opportunity, as opposed to what we have in store if we don't start giving back.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
In conclusion, you said something that I wanted you to provide more concept about.
Okay.
You said something about that we are earth wings. What does that mean? Can you tell us more?
I'm sorry,
you said something that we are earth wings. That humans are earth wings.
I'm still not
earth wings. That we're earth wings. Like I thought that was what you said.
I don't know why my headphone is not picking up that last part. That humans are
earth wings, like we are wings of the earth or something. Can
you do it in the chat?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. We are earth wings.
Yeah.
I might have misspoke there, because I don't.
Okay.
Use that phrase.
All right.
No wonder I
thought I just wanted to. If that's the concept that was new to me.
I'm so sorry. No.
It's something that we can. Okay,
it's
cool.
A cute saying, though. I might want to think about how I could use that. Earth wings.
Cool.
Sorry about that. No,
that's okay. That's.
Do you have any context for how you heard that? Like what I said, and maybe
I thought it was about how maybe we're part of the process, and we are here.
I do know that I said the earth breathes. That
okay.
She has an inhale and an exhale of carbon. She's also got, she has an inhale and exhale of life. She has an inhale and exhale of water with different seasons around the earth. It just depends. I just kind of, with carbon, I felt like it was like a breath cycle. She had inhaled all this carbon for millions of years to make fossil fuel. And then humans came along and started exhaling it very quickly and broadly. And that has been out of, got millions of years versus since 1850. So that's why we're, having a hard time right now.
Thank you indeed for coming. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
And my pleasure.
I hope we have a chance again to learn from you, because I really wanted to delve more about, because of time, about what your organization, Own It Economics, what it means, and what you do at that. Maybe you can have another chance sometime in the near future to talk about that.
I would love that.
Good. So folks, that's been a wonderful guest today, Beth Craig, who's shared with us awesomely, more importantly, about why it's important for us to give and to give to the earth and the benefits that comes from it. And she said she learned about consumers, but now and yesterday, how they were not shown the connection between what they purchase and the impact that our purchase has on the planet. And so she decided to do her part by giving back money to groups that helps out in the lands and the people that that are in charge of fair trade and all that. and in food production. And this has come with a lot of benefits to her in terms of uptick in our mood, and and also some other health benefit, and also importantly that it doesn't end up a loss, so to speak. It creates some form of wealth as a feedback from the planet. So please, I want to encourage you to go with this. It pays to work for a planet. It pays to care about others. It pays to care about our planet. I mean, it's the only home we've come to know, and our planet has given us so much, and it's also willing to give more if only we allow the planet to respond in its own way, not that the ways that we want, with the ways we're taking off without control. And so, and this portends greater threats, not just to us, but for people in the future. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And we look forward to having you. I mean, the pleasure it's ours. Thank you so much. So viewers, till I come your way again next time, next Monday at same station. And please remember to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share with your friends. Remember, there is no other planet. There is no planet B. This is the only planet for you and I, for generations after. Yep. Go take care of it. So, bye-bye.
Bye.